Let's face it, marketing a film is expensive. Hi, my name's Paul Bliven. I am a sound editor and re-recording mixer with 20 years experience in film and post-production. For the past 3 years, I mixed trailers for feature films for online and streaming marketing. Today, we're gonna explore a little bit about how a sound editor can help out in making your trailer stand out. No doubt, one of the bigger parts of the budget for the trailer is for music and sound effects, because the visuals mostly come from the feature itself. Recently, I contacted two major Los Angeles-based music production libraries. One is Extreme Music, based in Santa Monica, and the other is APM near Hollywood. I'm actually going to link a second part of this video in the description and also here on a card. This will talk more in depth about these two music libraries, including one of the rate cards for APM and more stuff that you could find on their website. Today, we're not really talking about music cues themselves, we're talking about sound design cues. So, what's one way a trailer house or the film production marketing team could save some money? We're gonna be taking a look at specifically the sound effects and its impact on the budget of a single trailer. When you're watching a trailer and you're listening to it, there's gonna be lots of slams, impacts, risers, swooshes, all of these transitional sound effects that add to the impact and the excitement of a film trailer. I'm going to show you an example of a sound effect that I cut in to a film trailer for the US release of Godzilla Minus One. They had a trailer cut in Tokyo and they had done all of the sound work, done the mix and everything. And when they were going to release it here in the United States, they found out that just one of the sound effects cues was only licensed for use in Japan. The company that I worked for was the sole company that was responsible for doing all of the US marketing. So they asked me to change that one sound effect right at the beginning of trailer 1 for Godzilla Minus One. Let's take a look at that. Here's my Pro Tools project with just the sound effects that I cut in to make that initial riser to cut to black. Now, because I worked directly with the marketing team and made a custom-made riser from scratch, the company didn't have to go in and spend thousands of dollars to license a sound design cue from one of the music production companies, which ended up saving them money. Plus, it was cut into the trailer and went online the very next day. A lot of times, we have work coming in and things need to be done fast, and we don't have the amount of time to sit and spend a lot of time creating things from scratch. If you can get your sound guy in on the process while the editor is cutting the trailer, you can significantly limit your cost by having the sound editor creating these for you to have your editor cut in while he's working on his edit. That way, we've already got original custom-made effects that don't need to be licensed that can significantly reduce the cost if you could get away with having your sound editor cut all of the sound effects for it. You're saving yourself, at least for one particular trailer, around $2,000 to upwards of $30,000. One thing that I find is of utmost importance in your arsenal as a sound editor or sound designer in creating sound effects for trailers or kind of anything is a decent synthesizer. You can use one in your DAW, a plugin, a VST. I have many of those as well. Just for some reason, I love having a hardware synthesizer where I can tweak knobs on the fly. Sometimes you can just even get away with just finding some patches that are already in there, and there's tons and tons of patches out there available for just about any synthesizer, whether it's a a plugin, a VST, or a hardware synth that can at least get your creative juices flowing. At the very least, get yourself a good MIDI controller that can access parameters in your VST, if not a decent hardware synth. This is a Korg Wave State. Korg makes so many great synthesizers with hands-on controls. They're not that expensive and they sound phenomenal. So let's go in and check out how I might go about creating, editing, and putting together an impact, a riser, and some sort of a transitional whoosh or swoosh. Quickly, check out the link in the description, or if you're watching on a computer, there should be a card on the side here, discussing how to do sound design with a virtual analog synthesizer, or pretty much any synthesizer with an oscillator. So I'm capturing some sounds off of my Wave State here. The Wave State synthesizer uses samples instead of an oscillator, so I'm scrolling through samples to find something that I like. This sample sounds good to me. It's kind of synth-like. I'm gonna adjust the attack time so it has a longer attack. Now I'm gonna adjust the LFO using a inverse saw or a ramp wave that's gonna control the pitch. Now I'm gonna use the pre-effects. I'm gonna use some ring mod to give it some added harmonic components. And now here's the riser. I quickly found another sample that I like. Doing the same thing, adjusting the attack. This one I wanted to get a little bit of movement between the left and the right, so I'm panning it to the right and using the LFO to control how much it's moving between the left and the right ear. I'm also using an LFO to control the amp, which is going to give it a sort of tremolo effect. As you can see, I'm turning up the frequency. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other using a pre-effect and a little bit of distortion. I'm going to look for another patch for another section of the riser. This is a patch that I made. The top left on the screen, you can see this is made from 4 different parts. So I'm going to go through and add pitch LFO to each of the different parts, timed slightly differently so that as they rise in pitch, it's almost creating that sort of constantly rising sound. Now I'm just going to capture a few of the drum samples that are on this, adding a little bit of harmonic overtones to the sounds to give it some interesting effects. Sometimes some reverb. These are good for impacts. Now I'm going to look for a sawtooth synth sound with some detune. This one's good. Just going to do a little bit of filter modulation. Here I am just capturing some natural whooshes. This is a bamboo stick my son got at a garden center, and it just made a great sound for a whoosh, so I thought I'd capture some. Here are the sounds I captured from the Wave State. I'm going to start with the riser. I'm piecing together the layers I want to use with it here. I like this high-pitched sound at the end of the riser. I want to give it a little reverb so that when it ends, there's still some remnant of that. There, that's nice. I'm going to EQ the first layer so that it has less bottom end. I'm giving it more mid-focus. Just trimming up the ends and lining them up better. That's the impact I want to add to the end of the riser. I'm using the pitch stretch to make it the right frequency I feel is right. But it doesn't quite hit right, so I'm going to use another hit layer with more mids. Just taking out some of the lows to fit in with the other kick. I'm also going to use this other one just because it has more of like a tom or timpani sound to it, which I like. Also boosting some mids, highs, and taking out lows in this layer. Now this is something I do when I want an impactful transient, but I want the lows to be full. I'm doubling my FX bus and using some EQ on each to create a crossover frequency, so I can adjust the leveling for the lows and the highs independently. I'm also adding some grit with Soundtoy's little heater on the highs. Now here is the finished riser. Just labeling the track, Riser Impact. I knew I was going to use the saw synth for my slam impact. So grabbing that, layering it with a nice punchy drum hit, just slightly pitching the drum to match the frequency of the synth better. This needs just a slight reverse cymbal just before the hit, Native Instruments battery. I hit the reverse button. Just pitching it down and center panned it a little bit. Here's the finished slam. Labeling, slam. Okay, for the swoosh, I'm going to start with those whooshes I recorded with the bamboo. They sound too small and quick for a transitional effect, so I'm pitching it down a lot. I'm also going to grab that little synth tremolo part I got off the wave state, and I'm layering that in, and I'm pitching it. It needs more mid-frequencies and some highs, so I'm going to grab a slightly lighter whoosh. And I'm cutting the lows and boosting the highs. I'm not digging the synth layer, so I'm pitching more and making it a bit shorter. Just making it really high to fill in the top end. I've opened Yuhi's Tyrell N6, an analog synth modeler. Just using the sub to fill out the bottom end. Adjusting the envelopes to give it a smoother fade in and out, and using the chorus to fill in the stereo spread. And here's the finished swoosh. Labeled swoosh. That's it for today. I hope you learned a lot. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification button so you can get more information about mixing, recording, sound editing, all of that. Thanks again. My name's Paul Bliven. Have a good one.